then rahimahullah goes on to talk about the sunnah acts of tayammum. And he mentions the first one by saying tajdeedu sa'id liyadayhi, yani to renew the substance that he's using in order to wipe over his hands. We mentioned in the previously that the striking of the earth in order to wipe the face, striking the earth once is sufficient for wiping his face and for wiping his arms. So a person could strike the earth, wipe his face, and then wipe his hands and his arms, or wipe his hands, and his tayammum is sufficient. Here we're going to say that it's mustahab that after he strikes the earth to wipe his face, that he strikes the earth again in order to wipe his arms or his hands. So that's what he means by tajdeed sa'id li yadayhi, meaning to renew the substance in which he's using to make tayammum over for the sake of wiping his hands. In other books you're going to see they'll call it darbat al-thaniya, striking the earth the second time. So that's the meaning of tajdeed sa'id li yadayhi, to strike the earth the second time in order to make tayammum with for wiping over his arms or his hands. Then the second sunnah was mashu ma bayn al-ku'ayni wal mirfaqayni. Then he's going to mention that it is mustahab, it's sunnah only for a person to make tayammum, meaning to wipe between his ankle and his elbow. For example, we just mentioned previously that it's sufficient. What's obligatory for a person to do is to wipe his face and his hands, not his arms. As Akhdari mentions here, wiping the arms, meaning wiping from the wrist all the way up to the elbow, meaning including the arms in your tayammum when you're doing your hands, is a sunnah. So that's why it says وَمَسْحُ مَا بَيْنَ الْكُوعَيْنِ وَالْمِرْفَقَيْنِ, wiping what is between the wrist bone and the elbow. Then he says وَالتَّرْتِيبُ meaning doing your tayammum in order, which means say your niyyah, to make your niyyah, strike the earth, wipe your face, and then strike the earth again and wipe your arms. That in general is the order of doing your tayammum. So that also is a sunnah. So Al-Akhdari mentioned 3 sunnahs in terms of tayammum. Then he's going to go on and talk about the virtuous acts wa fada'iluhu of tayammum. To say at-tasmiyah. To say at-tasmiyah means to say Bismillah. So to say Bismillah at the beginning of your tayammum is one of the things that are virtuous. وَتَقْدِيمُ الْيُمْنَى عَلَى الْيُسْرَى. تَقْدِيمُ الْيُمْنَى عَلَى الْأُسْرَى means to give preference to the right over the left. So a person should wipe over, what is he talking about here in regards to the arms? A person should wipe his right arm before wiping his left arm. That's a fadila. وَتَقْدِيمُ الظَّاهِرِ الذِّرَاعِ عَلَى بَاطِنِهِ, to wipe the outside of his arm before the inside. So another virtuous act is that a person should wipe the outside of his arm first and then do the inside. So the outside of the arm, what we mean by the outside of the arm? The outside of the arm that in which the elbow faces, not the palm of the hand. The palm of the hand, what follows the palm of the hand is considered the inside of the arm, and contrary to that is the outside of the arm. So it's a sunnah to start when you do your arms to do the outside first, and then to do the inside. Then he mentions another one, مُقَدِّمِهِ عَلَى مُؤَخِرِهِ, to start your tayammum from the tip of your fingers going towards your elbow. So when you're making your tayammum, you go from the tip of your fingers to your elbow, which is a fadila, not from your elbow down to your fingertips. So what do we mean by that? You're going to start from the outside of your arm when you're doing your tayammum. You're going to slide your arm all the way down to your elbow, and then when you get to your elbow, you're going to turn your hand to the inside of your arm and start from your elbow up to your hand. So what does he mean by starting? What does he mean by when he says وَمُقَدِّمِهِ عَلَى مُؤَخِرِهِ? Start from the top first, meaning from the fingertip down to the elbow, and then come from the elbow up to the fingertip. And so these are the 4 sunnahs that Al-Akhdari mentions. Then Al-Akhdari goes on to mention the things that nullify ablution. And he says, وَنَوَاقِدُهُ, the things that nullify tayammum. And he says, وَنَوَاقِدُهُ كَالْوُدُو. So the same things, basically the same things that nullify tayammum are the same things that nullify, the same things that nullify wudu are the same things that nullify tayammum. Al-Akhdari doesn't mention here, but it's understood from what we mentioned in the beginning, that another one of the things that nullify tayammum is dukhul waqt, the entering of a time prayer. So when the time for another prayer enters, that also nullifies the tayammum. So if a person made tayammum for dhuhr and then asr time came in, then that tayammum is, or my bad, a person who made tayammum for asr and then maghrib came in. Then once maghrib comes in, then the time for asr is done, and so that tayammum is nullified.